I'm here with George McFarland of Seven Waters Advisors. George, tell me a little bit about your motivation for entering the financial field.
Uh, my story is unique in that I never originally intended on entering the financial field when I started my career. In fact, when I married my wife, she married a man that had a 500 credit score and was about to have his house foreclosed upon. So I did not start the financial world right. But after we got married, we got together through some different finance classes and coaching from some church elders. We really learned how to get our personal financial house in order. And got to the point where we're financially stable, had credit worthiness. And then we were doing that, one career I moved into was actually remodeling. I actually did remodeling for some folks, but it was one of the most rewarding and one of the most heartbreaking jobs at the same time. And the reason for it is because what I did was I remodeled homes for folks with disabilities, specifically most often folks who were retired. So as you know, when you build your house when you're in your 40s, you don't think, hey, one day I'm going to need to go through this bathroom door with a walker or a wheelchair. And so we had to widen the doors. We had to make the bathtub safe. We had to put ramps, do all sorts of different things to get their houses ready. So even though there's a lot of government programs for a lot of people, there's really not any kind of government programs for helping seniors to get their homes in better shape. So if they didn't have the money, they couldn't afford it. So for the people who could, I got to see them be happy to stay in their homes, see their kids relieved because of that. But whenever it came to the people who got hit really hard, especially from 2000 to 2003 with that stock market drop, 2008, that stock market drop, and their financial advisors telling them, just hold on, your money come back. And during that time, watching their entire nest egg wash away. Whenever I would sit in front of them, I remember one couple in particular, walk into their home. They've got this beautiful, beautiful home. And all the molding looked hand carved. I don't know whether it was, but it looked it. We sat in a sunken living room with nice leather couches, but you could tell it really wasn't maintained. And what happened, he retired wealthy, but because of those things, by the time he talked to me, he said, I can't afford it. He, like many others, was hoping that he had a program. So I literally had to walk away several times from people that could have and should have afforded it, but because of bad advice and bad market conditions, wound up living on a fixed income. And so I thought to myself, what if I help people in the beginning of the retirement to make the right choices, so that when they got to the end of their retirement and they sat across from somebody like me, that they'd actually do what they wanted and what was best for them. Because you make a wrong move in a bathtub, you're cracking a skull. You fall down the steps, you're hurting yourself badly. So for me, it's a passion. There were times I would just go home with my gut in knots over that. And so that's the biggest reason. That really propelled me to start moving into the financial services.
I'm in the cusp between Boomer and Gen Xer, and you spoke to my demographic, and I'm not one who's hugely responsive to ads or electronic media-based pitches, but you hooked me. So I'm curious of your clientele, what percentage fall into my category as opposed to younger demographic groups with capital?
So my primary specialty for years has been retirees. We do help with small businesses and younger folks as well. Quite often it happens because we help some parents set up their retirement, and then the children ask for our help as well. And that's actually been a growing part of our book of business, but primarily it's your group. I would say probably 75% or more.
You have an event coming up next week. Tell me a little bit about that, but I'd also like to find out how many of those type of retirement workshops you conduct in the process of a year.
So I try to do at least one a month. And the goal is probably within the next year or two to do about 2 a month. But what we do is we really try to focus on education first. So currently, this particular seminar, we're talking about some of the tax dangers that are coming down the road. everybody always thinks they're paying too much in taxes. I don't care who you are, how much money you make, you're always going to feel like you pay too much money in taxes. But what a lot of people don't realize is right now our taxes are actually significantly lower historically than they've been throughout any of your lives. That's today. So the problem is that we have a looming national debt. We're nearly $35 trillion in debt. The taxes that we are enjoying right now, large standard deductions plus low tax brackets, you're talking about in 2026, that all goes away. We are bare minimum returning back to 2016 taxes. And we do have politicians calling for much, much higher taxes as high as 70%. So when most people were building their retirement, they were building their retirement expecting to pay less taxes after retirement. So they were shoving all their money into tax deferred accounts like a 401k, 403b, etc. And now, as they're looking at retirement, they're potentially looking at taxes just as high as what they were trying to avoid in the first place. So we are going over some strategies that you can look at to try to minimize those problems now while the taxes are still lower and before they really start ramping up.
My demographic group is perhaps not as flush as others, but I've come from Europe where financial advisors like you, speaking to someone like me, are frankly telling their clients to put their money into their home. The bank's not the place for it. The flux in financial markets are risky to the degree that financial advice for someone like me of a medium to lower income in retirement age, they're saying to put whatever capital you have into home improvements or improvements in their property. How does that set with you?
I would say that is wise for some of your portfolio, right? You want to try to, if you know you're getting near retirement, try to get your house fixed up, try to get what you can done now. But you also realize with everything that's happened after COVID, incredibly high costs of materials and labor, that's coming down. And it's going to continue coming down. So would I dump all of my money into my home at this point? I'm not sure if I would. But I would definitely have a plan to say, how do I make sure that my home's set up in such a way that over the next 20, 30 years, maintenance is minimal? I think that's a great idea, okay? And sometimes having a good maintenance contract with certain companies that are decent, have good maintenance contracts that you can always pay into that can help with that as well. But I agree, yes. The stock market is not producing like it used to. I was literally just running some numbers just the other day, comparing the 1980 to 1999 time period to 2000 to 2024. Two totally different time frames. And most people don't realize this, but the entire modern conventional financial wisdom was based off of 1980 to 1999. But there's never been another 20-year segment like that 20-year segment, ever, okay? And so because of that, the returns that we were getting when you adjust for inflation, you averaged a 13.65% return, 35% return for adjusted for inflation. From 1999 to now, from 2000 to now, you're talking about a 4.38% when adjusted for inflation. So much, much smaller returns when you factor in 2000 to 2003 and 2008, those major drops. So you're not seeing the same kind of returns. $1 million invested in 1980, by the time you got to 1999, would have turned into $25 million. $1 million invested in 2000, by the time you got to 2020, would have turned into $4 million. So your returns are much smaller, that's true. That being said, there's more to what you need than just a home, right? You need your food, you need healthcare, you need to pay your bills, you have all these other things. So you do need to find strategic ways to try to make sure that your income is keeping up with inflation. So I wouldn't say put it all into the house because you need a way to create income, and your home is not that. So what you need to do is find a balance between how do I have stable, reliable income that is not subject to market fluctuations, and then the money I don't need to live on right now, how do I maybe put that into growth? It could be exposed more to risk, but then I have more access to that. And so that's kind of the idea of having a balanced portfolio.
Viewers motivated to put their money where it's going to be best utilized. How do they get in touch with Seven Waters Advisors or you yourself, George?
You can go to our website, sevenwatersadvisors.com, and that's ADVISORS, sevenwatersadvisors.com, or you can call 903-730-6688. And so, but yeah, in general, whenever it comes to your question, the first place to start is avoid anything where if you look at one YouTube channel or one news station, you got this guy that says put all your money in this type of asset, or you got this other guy that says put all your money in this type of asset, and both of those guys are going to say the other guy is evil, they're scammers, they're hucksters, they're liars, etc., right? That's why we call ourselves Seven Waters Advisors. One of the reasons is it comes from the Bible, Ecclesiastes 1-4. Cast your bread upon the waters, and after many days it returns to you. Divide it into 7, maybe even 8 portions. And what that's talking about is diversification. It says you don't know whether the tree is going to fall to the left or to the right. So if I put all my money in real estate, or if I put all my money in the market, or if I put all my money in insurance, one of those may not work out well for me. But if I learn how to kind of move those things around properly, and I look at how much of my money is exposed to risk, then I have a better chance of preventing myself from risk. Most people think that their portfolios are balanced. And most of my clients that come into my office, we find that their portfolio is 95% exposed to market risk. And they don't even know it. That's the biggest problem people are facing right now, is how much money they have at risk when it doesn't need to be that much at risk.